The transport ship dropped out of hyperspace, and there it was. Celestial Academy hung in the darkness of space like a giant wheel of light. Maya Rodriguez pressed her face against the viewport and stared at the massive station that would be her home for the next 4 years. She clutched her worn blue backpack tighter against her chest. Everything she cared about was in that bag. The other passengers on the transport were mostly aliens. Tall ones, short ones, ones with scales and ones with fur. They all looked confident and strong. Maya felt small next to them. She was only 5 feet and 4 inches tall and weighed 130 pounds. Most of the aliens were twice her size. A voice came over the speaker system. The ship would dock in 10 minutes. Maya checked her reflection in the dark viewport. Her brown hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail. Her brown eyes looked tired. She had not slept well in 3 days. The journey from Earth had been long and uncomfortable. The transport ship shuddered as it connected to the docking port. Maya waited for the other passengers to leave first. She did not want to get trampled in the rush. When the corridor was clear, she grabbed her backpack and walked out. The docking area was huge. The ceiling was so high she could barely see it. Hundreds of students moved through the space talking and laughing. Signs in multiple languages pointed to different sections of the academy. Maya followed the signs that said orientation. She had studied everything she could about Celestial Academy before leaving Earth. The academy trained students from all over the galaxy in combat, survival, diplomacy, and leadership. Getting accepted was almost impossible. Only the best students from each world received invitations. Maya was one of 12 humans accepted this year. Humans were new to the galactic community. Earth had only made contact with alien species 15 years ago. Most aliens still did not know much about humans. From what Maya had heard, they thought humans were weak. Earth was considered a low-gravity world with no dangerous predators. The aliens could not understand how humans had survived long enough to develop space travel. Maya found the orientation room and took a seat in the back row. More students filed in. She recognized some species from her studies. The tall ones with blue skin were Xanthari. They were known for their speed and reflexes. The massive gray ones with thick armor plating were Krell. They were nearly impossible to hurt in a fight. There were dozens of other species she did not recognize at all. A holographic instructor appeared at the front of the room. The orientation lasted 2 hours. Maya learned about the academy rules, the class schedules, and the living arrangements. Students lived in dormitory quadrants based on their assigned training groups. Maya was in Quadrant 7. After orientation, Maya followed the signs to her new home. Quadrant 7 was on the outer ring of the station. The corridors were wide and clean. Other students passed her without a second glance. She was invisible to them. The dormitory had shared common areas and private sleeping quarters. Maya found her room number and pressed her thumb to the scanner. The door slid open. The room was small but functional. A bed, a desk, a storage locker, and a bathroom. One wall was a massive window that looked out into space. Maya could see stars and distant nebulas. She set her backpack down on the bed carefully. For a moment, she just stood there looking at the bag. Inside were data chips with her academy coursework, some clothes, personal hygiene items, and something else. Something wrapped in cloth at the bottom of the bag. She did not take it out. She did not want to think about it yet. A knock on the door made her jump. Maya opened it and found another human girl standing there. She had black hair and glasses and a friendly smile. "My name is Sophie Martinez. I'm in the room next door. I saw your name on the roster and wanted to introduce myself. There are not many humans here, so I thought we should stick together." Maya shook her hand. "I am Maya Rodriguez. Nice to meet you." Sophie came into the room without being invited and sat on the bed. She talked fast and asked a lot of questions. Where was Maya from? What was she studying? Had she met any of the other human students yet? Maya answered politely but kept her responses short. She was not used to people being this friendly. Sophie eventually noticed Maya's discomfort and stood up. "Sorry I talk too much. My brother always says I do not know when to shut up. If you need anything, just knock on my door, okay? We humans have to look out for each other here." After Sophie left, Maya unpacked her few belongings. She put her clothes in the locker and her data chips on the desk. The backpack went under the bed where she could reach it quickly if needed. She kept the wrapped bundle inside untouched. That night, Maya could not sleep. She lay in bed staring out the window at the stars. Tomorrow would be her first day of actual classes. Physical conditioning started at 6 in the morning. All students had to pass basic fitness tests in the first week. Maya was not worried about the tests. She was worried about standing out. She had come to Celestial Academy to start over. Back on Earth, everyone knew her. Everyone had expectations. Here she was, just another student. Just another human that the aliens thought was weak and fragile. That was fine with Maya. She wanted to be invisible. She wanted to be normal. But the backpack under her bed held a different story. It held proof of who she used to be. Championship gloves worn smooth from years of use. Gloves that had won 47 professional fights. Gloves that had made her famous across Earth and nearly destroyed her life in the process. Maya turned away from the window and closed her eyes. That part of her life was over. She was not a fighter anymore. She was just a student trying to survive in a place where humans did not belong. The gloves would stay hidden. No one at the academy needed to know about her past. She finally fell asleep as the station's artificial day cycle began. The lights in the corridor outside grew brighter. Somewhere in Quadrant 7, other students were waking up and preparing for their first day. Maya dreamed of home and boxing rings and crowds cheering her name. When the alarm woke her 3 hours later, she felt more tired than when she went to bed. She got dressed in the academy's standard training uniform. Black pants and a gray shirt with her name printed on the chest. She grabbed her backpack out of habit, then put it back under the bed. She would not need it for physical training. The door slid shut behind her as she headed to the gymnasium. The real test was about to begin. The first 2 days at Celestial Academy passed in a blur of classes and training sessions. Maya kept her head down and focused on her work. The physical conditioning was easier than she expected. Years of boxing training had given her endurance and strength that surprised the instructors. But she made sure not to stand out too much. She finished the runs in the middle of the pack and lifted weights that were respectable, but not impressive. The academic classes were harder. Galactic history and xenobiology required memorizing thousands of facts about species and cultures she had never heard of. Strategic combat theory involved complex mathematical formulas that made her head hurt. But Maya studied late into the night and managed to keep up with the other students. On the third day, everything changed. Maya was sitting in the Quadrant 7 common area after dinner. The room was large with comfortable seating and entertainment screens on the walls. About 30 students were scattered around talking and relaxing. Maya sat alone in a corner booth reviewing her notes on her data pad. Her blue backpack sat on the seat next to her like always. She felt someone watching her and looked up. 3 students stood near the entrance staring in her direction. The one in front was a Zenthari named Kyle. Maya recognized him from combat training class. He was tall and lean with blue skin and sharp features. He moved like a predator, smooth and confident. Next to him was Brandon, a Krell who stood over 7 feet tall with gray armored skin and arms as thick as tree trunks. The third was Tyler, another Zenthari who served as Kyle's shadow. Maya looked back down at her datapad, hoping they would lose interest. She did not want any trouble, but she heard footsteps approaching and knew her hope was pointless. Kyle stopped in front of her booth and smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Hey, human, what are you doing all alone over here?" Maya did not look up. Studying, Kyle laughed. His friends joined in. "Studying? How cute. You know what I heard? I heard humans are the weakest species in the galaxy. I heard your planet does not even have any real predators. Is that true?" Maya kept her eyes on her datapad. "I would not know. I have never met every species in the galaxy." Brandon stepped closer. His massive frame blocked out the light from overhead. "You are pretty bold for someone so small. Do you know who we are? Kyle here won the Junior Combat Championship last year. I came in second. We could break you without even trying." Other students in the common area were watching now. Some looked uncomfortable, but no one moved to help. This was normal at the academy. Conflicts happened all the time. As long as no one got seriously hurt, the instructors did not interfere. It was meant to teach students how to handle difficult social situations. Maya closed her datapad and looked up at Kyle. "I am sure you are very talented. Now, if you do not mind, I have a test tomorrow." She started to stand, but Tyler moved to block her exit from the booth. Kyle's smile grew wider. "What is the rush?" "We are just trying to be friendly. We want to welcome you to Quadrant 7 properly. Maya sat back down. She could feel her heart rate increasing. Her hands wanted to curl into fists, but she kept them relaxed on the table. These students did not know who she was. They saw a small human girl who looked like an easy target. If she stayed calm and did not provoke them, maybe they would get bored and leave. Kyle's eyes fell on the blue backpack next to Maya. What is in the bag? You carry that thing everywhere. Is it like a security blanket or something? Nothing important. Just personal items. Kyle reached for the backpack, but Maya grabbed it first. She held it against her chest, protectively. Kyle's expression changed. The playful mockery disappeared and something darker took its place. Give me the bag. No. Brandon moved closer until he was leaning over the booth. You should give Kyle what he wants. He does not like being told no. The common area had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. Maya could see Sophie Martinez standing near the doorway looking worried. But Sophie was even smaller than Maya. There was nothing she could do against 3 combat-trained upperclassmen. Maya took a deep breath. She thought about her options. She could give them the bag and avoid a confrontation. But if she did that, they would keep bothering her. Bullies always came back for more once they found a victim who would not fight back. Or she could refuse and see what happened. Maybe they would back down. Maybe they would take the bag anyway. Maybe things would get worse. I am not giving you my bag. Please leave me alone. Kyle's hand shot out faster than Maya expected. He grabbed the backpack and yanked it from her grip. The force nearly pulled her out of the booth. Kyle tossed the bag to Brandon, who caught it easily in one massive hand. Let us see what is so special in here. Brandon opened the bag and dumped the contents onto a nearby table. Data chips scattered across the surface. Clothes and personal items fell in a heap. At the bottom, wrapped in a piece of cloth, was something that rattled when Brandon shook the bag. What is this? Brandon unwrapped the cloth partway, revealing worn leather beneath. They look like gloves. Kyle picked up one of the gloves and examined it. These are ancient. Are these supposed to be weapons or something? He laughed and tossed it back on the table. Humans are so primitive. Maya stood up slowly. Her voice was quiet, but steady. Put my things back in the bag, or what? Tyler stepped between Maya and the table. You going to fight all 3 of us? A crowd had formed around them now. Students from multiple species watched with interest. Some were recording the incident on their devices. Maya could see this was entertainment for them. The weak human was finally going to get put in her place. Brandon held up the empty backpack and looked at the trash compactor on the far wall. Hey, Kyle, you think I can make it from here? Kyle grinned. Only one way to find out. Maya's expression did not change, but her stance shifted slightly. Her weight moved to the balls of her feet. Her shoulders relaxed. Her breathing became controlled and measured. These were movements she had trained for thousands of hours. Movements that were as natural to her as walking. Give me back my bag. Last chance. Brandon laughed and wound up like he was going to throw a ball. He aimed for the trash compactor's large opening across the room. The compactor was used for all the quadrant's waste. Anything that went in there would be crushed and recycled. Maya's belongings would be destroyed. Tyler and Kyle moved to give Brandon room. The crowd pressed closer to get a better view. Sophie was pushing through trying to reach Maya, but there were too many people in the way. Brandon's arm came forward, and the backpack flew through the air in a perfect arc toward the compactor opening. Maya moved. What happened next would be talked about in Quadrant 7 for months. What happened next would change everything about how the Academy viewed humans. What happened next took less than 4 seconds, but those 4 seconds revealed a truth that no one expected. The girl they thought was weak was about to show them what humans were really capable of when pushed too far. Maya exploded forward from her standing position with speed that should not have been possible for someone her size. She covered the 15 feet between her and the compactor in less than 2 seconds. The backpack was still in the air, rotating slowly as it flew toward the trash opening. Maya timed her jump perfectly and snatched the bag out of the air with her left hand just inches before it would have disappeared into the compactor. The crowd gasped. Several students actually stepped back in surprise. Maya landed smoothly on her feet with the backpack secured against her body. For a moment, everything was still. Then Kyle started laughing. Nice catch, human. But that does not change anything. You are still weak and you are still alone here. Maya turned to face the three bullies. Her expression was calm, but something had changed in her eyes. Something cold and focused. She carefully slung the backpack over her right shoulder and secured it. Then she walked back toward Kyle, Brandon, and Tyler. Brandon stepped forward to block her path. He was nearly twice her height and probably weighed 400 pounds. His armored skin could withstand impacts that would break bones on most species. He reached out with one massive hand to push Maya back. That was his first mistake. Maya's body shifted left and Brandon's hand grabbed nothing but air. Before he could react, Maya stepped inside his guard and drove her right fist into his midsection, just below the ribcage. The punch was short and compact, but it carried all of Maya's body weight behind it. Her hips rotated. Her legs pushed up from the ground. Her shoulder drove forward. The energy transferred from her feet through her core and exploded out through her knuckles. The sound of the impact echoed through the common area like a drum being struck. Brandon's eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Maya did not stop. She threw a left hook to the same spot, then another right. 3 punches in less than 1 second. Each one landed in the exact same place with mechanical precision. Brandon folded forward like he had been cut in half. His legs gave out and he dropped to his knees, struggling to breathe. The armor that protected him from most attacks did nothing against the focused force that Maya generated through proper technique and body mechanics. Tyler rushed at Maya, from the side throwing a wild punch aimed at her head. Maya saw it coming from the corner of her eye. She ducked under the swing and pivoted on her left foot. Tyler's momentum carried him past her. As he stumbled by, Maya twisted her hips and drove a right hook into his jaw. The punch connected with a sound like a bat hitting a baseball. Tyler's head snapped to the side. His legs tangled and he crashed face first onto the floor. He did not get up. He just lay there groaning with his hands covering his face. The entire exchange had taken 3 seconds. 2 of the 3 bullies were down. The crowd was dead silent now. Nobody was laughing anymore. Nobody was recording for entertainment. They were watching something they did not understand. Something that went against everything they believed about humans. Kyle stared at his friends on the ground. Then he looked at Maya. For the first time, fear showed in his eyes. But he was a champion fighter. He had trained his entire life for combat. He could not let a human make him look weak in front of everyone. He raised his fists and took a fighting stance. You got lucky. Brandon and Tyler underestimated you. I will not make that mistake. Maya said nothing. She just watched him with that same calm focus. Her hands hung loose at her sides. Her breathing was steady. She looked relaxed, but Kyle could see the coiled tension in her body. She was ready to move in any direction at any moment. Kyle attacked with a combination he had practiced 10,000 times. A jab to test distance followed by a fast cross aimed at Maya's head. He was fast. Zenthari reflexes were some of the quickest in the galaxy. But Maya was faster. She slipped the jab by moving her head just 2 inches to the left. The cross missed by the same margin as she swayed right. Kyle threw a hook, but Maya ducked under it. He tried an uppercut, but she leaned back and the punch passed in front of her face. 4 punches thrown and not one of them landed. Kyle might as well have been fighting a ghost. Maya saw the opening she was waiting for. Kyle had overextended on the uppercut and his guard was down. She stepped forward and drove a straight right hand directly into his solar plexus. The punch traveled less than 6 inches, but it had everything behind it. All her training, all her experience, all the power she could generate from perfect technique. Kyle's eyes bulged. The air rushed out of his lungs in a harsh gasp. His hands dropped to his stomach and he bent forward. Maya could have hit him again. She could have finished him with a hook or an uppercut while he was defenseless. But she did not. She just stepped back and let him drop to his knees next to his friends. The 3 bullies who had been so confident 5 minutes ago now sat or lay on the floor struggling to recover. None of them were seriously injured, but they had been beaten decisively and publicly. Everyone in the common area had witnessed it. Maya adjusted her backpack and looked around at the crowd. Nobody met her eyes. They all looked away or found something else to focus on. She started walking toward the exit. The crowd parted in front of her without being asked. Students moved aside quickly, creating a clear path. Sophie was standing near the doorway with her mouth hanging open. Maya stopped next to her for a moment. Are you okay? Sophie could only nod. Maya continued walking down the corridor toward her room. Behind her, the common area erupted in noise. Everyone started talking at once. What just happened? How did the human do that? Did you see how fast she moved? Is Brandon okay? Someone needs to get an instructor. The voices blended together into a confused roar. Maya reached her room and pressed her thumb to the scanner. The door slid shut behind her, cutting off the noise from outside. She set her backpack down gently on the bed and sat next to it. Her hands were shaking now. The adrenaline that had carried her through the fight was wearing off and reality was setting in. She had tried so hard to stay invisible. She had come to the academy to escape her past and start over as a normal student, but in 4 seconds she had destroyed any chance of that. Tomorrow everyone at Celestial Academy would know what she could do. They would ask questions. They would want to know how a human could move like that, how a human could hit that hard, how a human could defeat 3 trained fighters without taking a single hit in return. Maya unwrapped the cloth in her backpack and took out her boxing gloves. The leather was worn smooth from years of use. The padding had molded to fit her hands perfectly. She held them up and looked at them in the dim light of her room. These gloves had won 47 professional fights on Earth. These gloves had made her a champion before she was old enough to vote. These gloves represented everything she was trying to leave behind. But maybe leaving it behind had been a mistake. Maybe trying to be invisible had been the wrong choice. The galaxy thought humans were weak. They thought Earth had nothing to offer. 3 students had learned tonight that those assumptions were wrong. Tomorrow, the rest of the academy would learn the same lesson. Maya put the gloves back in the backpack and lay down on her bed. She stared out the window at the stars like she had the night before. But this time she was not thinking about hiding. She was thinking about what came next, because there would be consequences for what happened tonight. The instructors would investigate. Her record would be examined. Her past would be revealed. The secret she had tried so hard to keep was about to come out, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Maya did not sleep that night. She lay in bed listening to the sounds of the station settling and waiting for the inevitable knock on her door. It came at 0600 hours just as the corridor lights began their morning cycle. She was already dressed in her training uniform when she opened the door. A security officer stood in the hallway. His species was unfamiliar to Maya, but his expression was clear enough. She was in trouble. The officer gestured for her to follow and led her through the corridors to the administrative section of the academy. Other students stared as they passed, but no one said anything. They stopped outside an office with a nameplate that read, Commander Linda Grant. The security officer knocked, and a voice from inside said to enter. The door slid open and Maya stepped into a large office with windows that looked out over the docking bay. Commander Grant sat behind a desk covered in data screens and holographic displays. She was human, one of the few human instructors at the academy. She looked to be in her 50s with gray hair pulled back in a military style and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She gestured to a chair in front of the desk. "Sit down, Rodriguez." Maya sat. Commander Grant dismissed the security officer and waited until the door closed before speaking again. 3 students are in the medical bay this morning. Brandon has bruised internal organs. Tyler has a fractured jaw. Kyle has cracked ribs and cannot breathe properly without pain medication. Do you know how they got those injuries? Maya kept her voice steady. They started it. They took my bag and tried to throw it in the trash compactor. I defended myself and retrieved my property. Commander Grant nodded slowly. I have reviewed the security footage. Your account is accurate. Brandon, Kyle, and Tyler initiated the confrontation and attempted to destroy your belongings. They broke academy regulations regarding unauthorized conflict outside designated areas. They will face disciplinary action. Maya felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. So I am not being expelled? The commander smiled, but there was no warmth in it. That depends on your answers to my next questions. How did you learn to fight like that? Where did a human civilian with no military background acquire combat skills that exceed most trained soldiers? Maya said nothing. She had known this moment would come, but she had hoped to delay it longer. Commander Grant turned one of her displays so Maya could see it. The screen showed a video of a boxing match. A younger Maya stood in a ring wearing gloves and shorts covered in sponsor logos. Across from her was an opponent who looked twice her size. The video played showing Maya slipping punches and countering with devastating accuracy. The fight ended in the 3rd round with the opponent on the canvas unable to continue. Commander Grant switched to another video. This one showed Maya holding a championship belt over her head while a crowd of thousands cheered. Then another video of her training, throwing combinations on heavy bags that swung wildly under the impact of her fists. Then newspaper articles in multiple languages. Then interview clips where Maya spoke about her career and her dreams. Maya Rodriguez. They called you Lightning Maya back on Earth. Youngest heavyweight champion in the history of professional boxing. 47 wins, 0 losses, 43 knockouts. You retired at 18 and disappeared from public life. The sports media on Earth spent months trying to find you. No one knew where you went. But I did. Because I processed your application to Celestial Academy. Maya looked down at her hands. They were steady now. The shaking from last night was gone. I wanted a fresh start. Boxing was not what I wanted anymore. Commander Grant leaned back in her chair. Do you know what boxing is to most galactic species? They have never seen it. Never heard of it. Combat sports exist across the galaxy, but they are usually based on grappling or weapons. The idea of two beings standing still and hitting each other with their fists is considered primitive and inefficient. So they think humans are primitive. That is not new. The commander shook her head. You are missing the point. What you did last night should not have been possible. Brandon is a Krell. Their species has been studying combat for 5,000 years. Their armor can withstand plasma burns and kinetic impacts that would kill most beings. You dropped him with 3 punches to the body. Tyler is Xanthari. They are born hunters with reflexes fast enough to catch flying insects out of the air. You hit him once and broke his jaw. Kyle is a decorated champion who has trained every day of his life since he could walk. You beat him without taking a single hit. I had good training. Commander Grant stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the ships coming and going from the docking bays. Maya, I am going to tell you something that very few people know. When Earth was discovered 15 years ago, the Federation Council debated whether to make contact at all. Many species argued that humans were too weak to survive in the greater galaxy. They said your planet was a low-threat environment that had not properly prepared you for the dangers of space. They wanted to leave Earth alone until you evolved into something stronger. Maya felt anger rising in her chest. So they think we are not good enough. The commander turned back to face her. They think you are fragile, breakable. They look at human biology and see nothing impressive. No natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced senses. Average strength, average speed. They do not understand how humans survived long enough to develop civilization, let alone space travel. What they do not understand is that humans survived by using your minds, by developing tools and techniques and strategies to overcome your physical limitations. Boxing is one of those techniques. Exactly. Commander Grant sat back down. Do you know how much force you generated with those punches last night? The medical scanners measured the impacts. Your right hand to Brandon's midsection hit with 800 pounds of force. That is enough to crack concrete. You weigh 130 pounds. How is that possible? Maya had explained this 1,000 times to reporters and interviewers back on Earth. Technique, body mechanics, using your legs and hips to generate power, rotating your shoulders, transferring energy through your core. A proper punch uses your entire body, not just your arm. The commander nodded. Exactly. And that is something most species have never developed because they did not need to. They are naturally strong enough that technique does not matter as much. But humans had to learn these skills to survive. You turned physical weakness into an advantage by perfecting the art of efficient force generation. So what happens now? Maya asked. Everyone saw what I did. They are going to have questions. Commander Grant pulled up a new display. It showed a document with multiple official seals. This is a report that will be filed with the Federation Council. It details the incident from last night and provides analysis of human combat capabilities. Specifically, it will highlight boxing as an example of human ingenuity and adaptation. It will recommend that the Council reconsider their assessment of Earth's military potential. You are going to tell the whole galaxy about me. I am going to tell them about what humans can do when properly trained. You are just the example. The commander looked directly at Maya. The Academy holds quarterly combat tournaments. Students compete for rankings and recognition. The next tournament is in 6 weeks. I am formally requesting that you participate in the open division. Maya shook her head. I came here to leave boxing behind. I do not want to fight anymore. This is bigger than what you want, Rodriguez. Earth is still trying to gain full membership in the Federation Council. Every human achievement reflects on your entire species. If you compete and do well, it will prove that humans deserve respect. It will prove that Earth has something valuable to contribute to the galactic community. And if I refuse, then you refuse. I cannot order you to fight, but I can tell you that right now there are 11 other human students at this academy. They face constant discrimination and doubt about their abilities. They work twice as hard as everyone else just to be seen as equals. A victory in the open division tournament would change that. It would change how every species views humanity. Maya thought about Sophie standing in the doorway last night with her mouth open in shock. She thought about the other human students she had seen in classes looking tired and discouraged. She thought about Earth and all the people. They're hoping their species would be accepted among the stars. She thought about her boxing gloves wrapped in cloth at the bottom of her backpack. If I do this, I need to train properly. I need access to a gym and equipment. I need sparring partners who can handle the intensity. Commander Grant smiled for real this time. Already arranged. The academy has excellent facilities, and I have identified several students who are willing to help. Kyle, Brandon, and Tyler included. Maya blinked in surprise. They want to help me after I put them in the medical bay. They want to learn. They respect strength and skill. You proved you have both. The commander stood up, indicating the meeting was over. You have 1 week to decide about the tournament. In the meantime, your classes will continue as normal. Try not to put anyone else in the medical bay unless absolutely necessary. Maya left the office and walked back through the corridors. Students moved out of her way now. They watched her pass with expressions that ranged from fear to curiosity to respect. She was not invisible anymore. She would never be invisible again. The news spread through Celestial Academy faster than light-speed communications. By midday, every student knew about the fight in Quadrant 7. By evening, the video footage had been shared across multiple networks despite being officially restricted. By the next morning, Maya could not walk 10 feet without being stared at or whispered about. She went to her morning combat class and found the entire room watching her enter. The instructor, a veteran Krell warrior named Commander Stone, nodded at her respectfully. That had never happened before. During the warm-up exercises, other students kept glancing over at her. When they paired up for sparring drills, no one wanted to be her partner. They were afraid of her now. Sophie found Maya at lunch sitting alone in the corner of the cafeteria. She set her tray down across from Maya without asking permission. You know everyone is talking about you, right? Maya pushed food around on her plate without eating. I noticed. Sophie leaned forward and lowered her voice. Is it true you were a professional boxer on Earth? Like actually professional with sponsors and everything? Maya nodded. For 3 years. I started when I was 15. Sophie's eyes went wide. 15. That is so young. Why did you start so early? Maya thought about how to explain it. My father was a boxing coach. He taught me the basics when I was 6. By the time I was 12, I was winning amateur tournaments. By 15, I was good enough to turn professional. My family needed the money, so I took the opportunity. And you never lost. Not even once. I was lucky. I had good coaching and natural talent. Boxing made sense to me in a way that other things did not. In the ring, everything was clear. There were rules and objectives, and if you trained hard enough, you could win. The real world was more complicated. Sophie ate some of her food before asking the next question. Why did you quit? You were famous. You had everything. Maya finally looked up and met Sophie's eyes. I quit because I was tired. Tired of the pressure. Tired of everyone expecting me to be perfect. Tired of being Lightning Maya the champion instead of just Maya the person. I wanted to do something else with my life. Something that mattered more than hitting people for entertainment. Boxing does not matter. Not the way I was doing it. Fighting in front of crowds for money and fame. That did not feel important. But coming here, maybe I can use those skills for something better. Maybe I can prove that humans deserve to be part of the galactic community. Sophie smiled. So you're going to enter the tournament. Maya had not decided yet, but hearing Sophie say it out loud made something click in her mind. Yes, I think I am. Good. Sophie stood up with her tray. Because we need this, all of us. Every human here gets treated like we are weak and useless. If you win, it will change everything. After lunch, Maya went to the gymnasium that Commander Grant had set up for her training. It was a smaller facility usually used for individual conditioning work. Inside, she found weight equipment, cardio machines, and most importantly, several heavy bags hanging from the ceiling. She wrapped her hands carefully using the cloth strips from her backpack and began working on the bags. The feel of her fists hitting the leather was familiar and comforting. Her body remembered the movements even after months away from training. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut. The combinations flowed naturally. She worked for an hour until sweat soaked through her uniform and her arms felt heavy. When she stopped, she noticed she was not alone anymore. 3 students stood in the doorway watching her. Kyle, Brandon, and Tyler. They were out of the medical bay and looked mostly recovered, though. Tyler's jaw was still swollen and Brandon moved, carefully like his ribs hurt. Maya tensed, ready to defend herself if needed. But Kyle raised his hands, showing they meant no harm. "We came to talk. Can we come in?" Maya nodded and stepped back from the bag. The 3 entered the gym and stood awkwardly for a moment before Kyle spoke again. "We wanted to apologize. What we did was wrong. We judged you because you are human, and we thought that made you weak." "We were idiots." Brandon added his own apology. "You could have seriously hurt us, but you pulled your punches. I saw the video after. You held back. If you wanted to, you could have done permanent damage. Thank you for showing restraint." Tyler was the last to speak. His words came out slightly slurred because of his jaw. "Commander Grant says you are entering the tournament. We want to help you train. We want to learn how you fight like that." Maya studied them carefully. She had beaten these 3 students badly and humiliated them in front of their peers. Now they wanted to train with her. It did not make sense. "Why would you want to help me? I am your competition." Kyle shook his head. "You are not our competition. You are on a completely different level. What you did to us was not luck. It was skill. Years of training and experience. We want to understand that. We want to become better fighters, and you can teach us things our regular instructors cannot." "What kind of things?" "Efficiency." Kyle gestured at the heavy bag. "We watched you work out. Every movement has a purpose. No wasted energy. No unnecessary motion. We train to be strong and fast, but you train to be precise. That is something we never learned." Maya thought about it. She had come to the academy to be alone and start fresh. But maybe isolation was not the answer. Maybe working with others, even former enemies, was part of growing beyond her past. And if she was going to enter the tournament, she would need sparring partners who could push her. These 3 were some of the best fighters at the academy. "Okay, you can train with me, but we do it my way. That means discipline and hard work. No shortcuts." All 3 agreed immediately. They spent the next 2 hours in the gym with Maya, teaching them basic boxing fundamentals. She showed them how to stand properly, how to keep their hands up, how to move their feet. They were all experienced fighters, but boxing was completely new to them. They struggled with concepts that seemed simple to Maya. Brandon in particular had trouble. His massive body was built for power, not precision, but he kept trying, throwing jab after jab at the heavy bag even though his form was terrible. Tyler adapted quickly once his jaw allowed him to relax his face. Kyle was the best student. His Zenthari reflexes combined with boxing technique created combinations that were blindingly fast. Over the next week, more students asked to join the training sessions. Word spread that Maya was teaching human fighting techniques, and curiosity brought them to the gym. Soon there were a dozen students from various species learning the basics of boxing. Maya found herself in the strange position of being a teacher and a celebrity. 2 roles she had never wanted. But something unexpected happened. She started enjoying it. Helping others improve gave her a sense of purpose that professional boxing never had. When Brandon finally threw a proper jab after days of practice, the smile on his face made Maya feel proud. When Tyler successfully slipped a punch, using head movement he had learned from her, she felt like she had accomplished something meaningful. Sophie came to watch one of the training sessions and pulled Maya aside during a break. "You look happy. Happier than I have seen since you arrived." Maya wiped sweat from her face with a towel. "I think I am. This feels right. Not fighting for crowds or money. Just teaching and helping people improve. You are also bringing everyone together." Sophie gestured at the gym where students from a dozen different species were working out side by side. "Do you see that? Zenthari training with Krell. Species that normally avoid each other cooperating because they want to learn from you. You are building bridges." Maya had not thought about it that way, but Sophie was right. The gym had become a neutral space where species differences did not matter. Everyone was equal here. Everyone was learning something new. That night, Maya sat in her room looking at her boxing gloves again. She had carried these gloves across the galaxy trying to escape what they represented, but maybe they did not represent her past. Maybe they represented her future. Not as a professional fighter, but as someone who could teach others, someone who could prove that humans had valuable knowledge to share with the galaxy. She wrapped the gloves carefully and put them back in her backpack. In 5 weeks, the tournament would begin. She would enter the open division and face the best fighters at the academy. She would represent humanity and Earth. But she would not be alone. She would have training partners and friends supporting her. That made all the difference. The next morning, Commander Grant called Maya back to her office. When Maya arrived, she found the commander smiling. "I have news. The tournament committee formally accepted your entry into the open division. You will face 5 opponents over the course of 3 days. The matches will be broadcast across Federation space. Earth's government has been notified and they are very excited." Maya felt nervous energy building in her stomach. 5 opponents in 3 days. That is a lot, you can handle it. Commander Grant pulled up a display showing profiles of potential opponents. These are the top-ranked students who will likely be in your bracket. Study them. Learn their styles. Prepare accordingly. Maya looked at the profiles. All 5 were champions in their respective combat disciplines. All 5 had years more experience than her at the academy. All 5 were from species known for their fighting abilities. This would not be easy. The 5 weeks before the tournament passed in a blur of training and preparation. Maya woke up every morning at 0500 hours and ran through the station corridors before most students were awake. Then she spent 2 hours in the gym working on technique. Then classes all day. Then more training in the evening with her growing group of sparring partners. Then studying the profiles of her potential opponents late into the night. Her body adapted to the intense schedule. Muscles that had gone soft during her retirement hardened again. Her reflexes sharpened. Her timing improved. She was not quite at the peak condition she had maintained during her professional career, but she was close enough. Kyle proved to be her most valuable training partner. His speed pushed Maya to react faster than she ever had before. They spent hours sparring with Kyle, throwing combinations while Maya worked on her defense. At first, she could only slip about half his punches. By the 3rd week, she was avoiding 80% of them. By the 5th week, Kyle could barely land anything clean. Brandon helped Maya prepare for opponents with superior strength and durability. She practiced finding weak points on his armored body, the joints where plates met, the spots where organs sat close to the surface. She learned to recognize the tiny tells that indicated when he was about to move. Every opponent had patterns and habits that could be exploited if you knew what to look for. Tyler worked with Maya on footwork and angles. His natural athleticism combined with boxing training made him dangerous but predictable. Maya taught him how to cut off the ring and trap opponents in corners. In return, he showed her movement techniques from Zenthari martial arts that improved her ability to change direction quickly. The other students who joined the training sessions improved rapidly. Some showed real talent, and Maya encouraged them to continue practicing, even after she was done with the tournament. Boxing was not just about fighting. It was about discipline and self-control and pushing past your limits. Those were lessons that applied to every part of life. Sophie became Maya's unofficial manager and assistant. She organized the training schedules and made sure Maya ate properly and got enough rest. She also handled the growing media attention. News outlets from across Federation space wanted interviews with the human boxer, who was challenging the established order. Sophie politely declined most requests, but accepted a few that would help Earth's image. One interview was with a major Federation news network that broadcast to billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. The interviewer was a sophisticated AI that asked probing questions about human culture and fighting techniques. Maya answered honestly and explained that boxing was not about violence. It was about testing yourself against another person who wanted to win just as much as you did. It was about respect and honor and giving everything you had to achieve a goal. The interview went viral. Suddenly, everyone in the galaxy was talking about boxing and humans and whether this small species from Earth could compete with beings who were naturally stronger and faster. The betting markets opened and Maya's odds were not good. Most gamblers predicted she would lose her first match. A few optimistic ones thought she might win once or twice before being eliminated. Almost no one believed she could win the entire tournament. That was fine with Maya. She had been underestimated her entire life. It was nothing new. Commander Grant brought Maya updates from Earth every few days. The government was treating this as a major event. Schools were planning to broadcast the tournament. Sports bars were organizing viewing parties. The entire planet would be watching. No pressure. 2 weeks before the tournament, the bracket was announced. Maya would face 5 opponents in order of difficulty, starting with the weakest and ending with the defending champion. Her first opponent was a Draxian named Jake, a species known for their aggressive fighting style and powerful strikes. Her second would be a Morphean called Alex, who could change his body density, making him harder or softer depending on the situation. The third match was against a Voltari named Chris. His species had 4 arms and could attack from multiple angles simultaneously. The fourth opponent was a veteran Krell named Sam, who had won 3 consecutive Academy championships before the current title holder. And the final match would be against the defending champion, a legendary fighter named Nick from a species called the Athari, who possessed enhanced speed, strength, and endurance. Maya studied each opponent carefully. She watched recordings of their previous fights, looking for patterns and weaknesses. Jake always threw the same combination when he got frustrated. Alex relied too much on his density changing and forgot basic defensive fundamentals. Chris had incredible offense but poor footwork. Sam was technically sound but predictable in his approach. Nick seemed to have no weaknesses at all, which meant Maya would have to create some. 1 week before the tournament, Commander Grant called a meeting with all 12 human students at the academy. They gathered in a small conference room and sat around a table looking nervous. The commander stood at the head of the table and addressed them directly. "I want you all to understand what is happening here. Maya is not just fighting for herself. She is fighting for every human at this academy and every human on Earth. The results of this tournament will influence how the galaxy views our entire species for years to come. That is a heavy burden to carry, but Maya has agreed to carry it. The least we can do is support her." The other students nodded. One of them, a boy named Danny Park who studied tactical operations, raised his hand. "What can we do to help?" Commander Grant smiled. "Show up, be visible, cheer loud. Let the galaxy see that humans stand together, and win your own competitions and excel in your own classes. Maya is getting attention right now, but all of you are representing Earth in your own ways. Make us proud." After the meeting, the human students stayed to talk with Maya. They asked questions about boxing and training and how she stayed calm under pressure. Maya answered as best she could, but she was not sure she had good advice. She just did what felt natural. She prepared as well as possible, and then trusted her training. Katie Sullivan, a human girl who studied engineering, asked the question they were all thinking. "Are you scared?" Maya thought about lying, but decided these students deserved honesty. "Yes, I am terrified. I have not fought competitively in almost a year. My opponents have been training specifically for this while I have been taking academic classes. Any one of them could beat me if I make a mistake. And if I lose, I let down everyone who believed in me. So how do you deal with that fear?" Maya shrugged. "I do not deal with it. I just accept it. Fear is natural. It means you care about the outcome. The trick is not letting fear control your actions. In the ring, you have to trust yourself and commit to your game plan. Doubt will get you knocked out faster than any punch." The students seemed satisfied with that answer. They wished Maya luck and left the conference room until only Sophie remained. She sat across from Maya looking worried. "You are going to be okay, right? I mean, you can actually win this." Maya smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "I do not know. Honestly, I have no idea if I can win, but I know I will give everything I have. That is all anyone can do." The night before the tournament, Maya could not sleep again. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling and running through scenarios in her mind. She visualized each opponent and planned her strategy. Against Jake, she would stay defensive and counter his aggressive attacks. Against Alex, she would force him to maintain one density and exploit the limitations that created. Against Chris, she would focus on his legs since he could not protect them while using all 4 arms. Against Sam, she would use movement and angles to avoid his power. Against Nick, she had no plan yet because he seemed perfect. At some point, she must have fallen asleep because she woke to her alarm blaring at 0500. Tournament day had arrived. Maya got dressed in her academy uniform and grabbed her blue backpack. Inside were her championship gloves wrapped carefully in cloth. She had not worn them in months, but today they would come out of retirement one more time. She walked through the quiet corridors to the main arena. The tournament would not start for another 5 hours, but Maya wanted to see the space while it was empty. She wanted to feel the energy of the place before thousands of spectators filled it with noise and expectations. The arena was massive. Rows of seats surrounded a central fighting platform that was 50 feet across. Giant screens hung from the ceiling ready to show close-up footage of the action. The lighting was bright and artificial, making everything look stark and real. Maya stood at the edge of the platform and looked up at the empty seats. In a few hours, this place would be full. Beings from across the galaxy would watch her fight. Earth would be watching. Her family would be watching. Everything she had worked for would be tested in front of everyone. She took a deep breath and stepped onto the platform. The surface was firm but had enough give to be comfortable for footwork. She bounced on her toes, testing the feel. Then she threw a few punches, testing the space. It felt good. It felt right. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Kyle, Brandon, and Tyler entering the arena. They were dressed in their formal academy uniforms, looking serious. Kyle spoke first. "We wanted to wish you luck before things get crazy." By 0900 hours, the arena was packed. Thousands of students filled the seats, creating a wall of noise that echoed off the high ceiling. Screens around the station and across Federation space showed the same view of the fighting platform. Billions of beings were watching. Maya tried not to think about that as she waited in the preparation area. Sophie helped her wrap her hands using the traditional cloth strips that boxers had used on Earth for over a century. The ritual was calming. Wrap between each finger, around the wrist, over the knuckles, secure with tape. Then the gloves. Maya slid her hands into the worn leather and Sophie tied them tight. The fit was perfect. The gloves felt like extensions of her arms. An official came to the preparation area and announced that the first match would begin in 5 minutes. Maya stood and bounced on her toes, loosening up. Her body felt good, strong and fast and ready. Her mind was quiet. All the doubt and fear had been pushed aside. Right now there was only the fight. She walked through the tunnel that led to the arena floor. The noise hit her like a physical force. Thousands of voices shouting and cheering. She climbed the steps to the platform and looked across at her first opponent. Jake the Draxian stood 8 feet tall with red-scaled skin and arms as thick as Maya's legs. He looked confident and dangerous. The referee called them to the center and explained the rules. 3 5-minute rounds, no biting or eye gouging. Fight until knockout or submission or the judge's decision. The referee asked if they understood and both fighters nodded. Then he sent them back to their corners. The bell rang. Jake came forward immediately, throwing heavy punches meant to end the fight quickly. Maya moved backward, staying just out of range. She let him come to her and waste energy. His punches were strong but slow. She could see them coming from a mile away. After 30 seconds of missing, Jake started getting frustrated. That was when Maya saw the tell she had noticed in the videos. His left shoulder dropped slightly before he threw his favorite combination. Right hook to the body followed by a left uppercut to the head. Maya waited for the shoulder drop. There. She slipped the body hook and ducked under the uppercut. While Jake was off balance, she stepped in and drove 3 quick punches into his ribs. The impacts sounded like drums. Jake grunted and backed away, surprised. No one that small should hit that hard. The round continued with Maya using movement and angles to avoid Jake's power, while landing clean counterpunches whenever he overextended. By the end of the first round, Jake was breathing hard and showing signs of frustration. Maya was barely sweating. The second round was more of the same. Jake tried to change his approach and be more patient, but patience was not his strength. He was a brawler who relied on aggression. When that did not work, he had no backup plan. Maya picked him apart with jabs and straight rights that snapped his head back. She targeted his body with hooks that made him wince. She was in complete control. Halfway through the third round, Jake threw a desperate overhand right that was so wild it left him completely open. Maya saw the opportunity and took it. She stepped inside and threw a perfect left hook that connected flush on his jaw. Jake's eyes rolled back and his legs gave out. He crashed to the platform like a tree being cut down. The referee counted to 10, but Jake did not get up. The crowd erupted. Maya raised her gloves and acknowledged the cheers. Her first tournament fight in almost a year, and she had finished it with a knockout. Sophie rushed onto the platform and hugged her. The human students in the crowd were chanting her name. Other students from different species were watching with new respect. Maya had 1 hour to rest before her second fight. She went back to the preparation area and drank water while Sophie worked on her hands. Commander Grant came by to check on her. "That was excellent work. You made it look easy. It was easier than I expected. Jake was strong but not technical enough. The next one will be harder. The next one was harder. Alex the Morphean was tricky. His ability to change his body density meant he could make himself heavy enough to absorb punches without damage, or light enough to move with incredible speed. Maya had to figure out how to deal with both extremes. The fight started with Alex in his light form zipping around the platform too fast to hit cleanly. Maya stayed in the center and let him come to her. She threw jabs to measure distance and test his reactions. When Alex attacked, she noticed something important. He had to return to normal density for a split second before changing forms. That was his weakness. Maya baited him into attacking by leaving an opening. Alex went light and rushed in, throwing a combination. Maya blocked the punches and watched carefully. There. Just before he tried to go heavy to absorb her counterpunch, she saw him flicker back to normal density. She timed a straight right to land during that flicker. The punch caught Alex clean and staggered him backward. The crowd gasped. No one had ever hit Alex during a form change before. Maya pressed the advantage and threw combinations targeting that brief moment of vulnerability. Alex tried to adjust, but Maya had solved his puzzle. She knew exactly when to throw and where to aim. The fight ended in the second round with Alex unable to continue after taking too much damage during his form changes. 2 fights down, 3 to go. The third fight was against Chris the Voltari. His forearms created angles that were difficult to defend. He could throw punches from directions that seemed impossible. Maya had prepared for this by studying insects and how they moved. She realized that Chris was like a spider. He looked scary, but he had predictable patterns. Chris relied on overwhelming opponents with volume. He threw 100 punches hoping 20 would land. But Maya noticed he always attacked in the same sequence. Upper arms, then lower arms. Right side, then left side. Once she recognized the pattern, she could defend it. She bobbed and weaved and blocked in rhythm with his attacks. And when he got tired from throwing so many punches, she countered with sharp, accurate shots to his legs. Without proper footwork, Chris could not use his forearms effectively. Maya chopped him down like cutting down a tree. She attacked his lead leg until he could not put weight on it. Then she moved to the other leg. By the third round, Chris was limping badly and could barely stand. The referee stopped the fight to protect him from further damage. 3 fights in one day. Maya was exhausted, but she had made it through the first stage. Tomorrow she would face Sam the Krell veteran, and then Nick the defending champion. Those would be the real tests. That night, Maya could not eat. Her hands hurt from punching beings with armored skin and dense bones. Her legs were sore from constant movement. Her head ached from the pressure and concentration. But she was winning. Against all odds, she was winning. Sophie brought food to her room and forced her to eat something. You need fuel for tomorrow. Those last 2 fights are going to be brutal. Maya knew she was right, but food tasted like cardboard. She ate mechanically without enjoying it. Then she lay down and tried to sleep. Her body was tired enough, but her mind would not shut off. She kept replaying the fights from today, looking for mistakes and things she could improve. At some point, exhaustion won, and she fell into a dreamless sleep. When the alarm woke her the next morning, her whole body hurt. She forced herself out of bed and went through her warm-up routine. Stretching helped loosen the tight muscles. A hot shower helped ease the soreness. By the time she got to the arena, she felt functional, if not great. The 4th fight against Sam was everything Maya feared it would be. Sam had 40 years of fighting experience. He had seen every technique and counter. He was patient and technical and made almost no mistakes. For 3 rounds, Maya and Sam exchanged punches in what looked more like a chess match than a fight. Every move had a purpose. Every action had a reaction. Maya realized she could not outthink Sam. He was too experienced. So she decided to outwork him. She threw more punches, moved more, stayed busier. She made Sam react to her instead of the other way around. It was exhausting, but it worked. In the 3rd round, Sam started slowing down. His age and the pace Maya set were catching up to him. With 1 minute left in the fight, Maya saw her chance. Sam dropped his right hand slightly after throwing a jab. It was a tiny mistake that he probably did not even realize he made. Maya fired a left hook into the opening. The punch landed clean on Sam's temple. His legs wobbled, but he did not go down. Maya threw another hook. Then an uppercut. Then a straight right. 4 punches in 2 seconds. Sam finally collapsed to his knees. The referee stopped the fight with 30 seconds remaining. The crowd went insane. Maya had just beaten a legend. A fighter who had seemed unbeatable for years had fallen to the small human boxer. Students from every species were on their feet cheering. The human section was crying and hugging each other. Even some of the instructors looked impressed, but Maya could not celebrate yet. She had one more fight. The hardest fight. Nick, the defending champion, was waiting. The break between fights 4 and 5 was only 30 minutes. Barely enough time to recover. Sophie worked on Maya's hands while Commander Grant gave advice. Nick is faster than anyone you have faced. Stronger too. He has perfect technique and no obvious weaknesses. You are going to have to dig deeper than you ever have before. Maya nodded. She understood. This fight would determine everything. Win and she would be champion. The second round began and Maya changed her entire approach. She stopped trying to match Nick's technical perfection. Instead, she brought something he had never faced before. Pure stubborn human determination. She walked forward through his punches, taking hits that would have stopped most fighters. She kept coming no matter what. Every time Nick landed a clean shot, Maya stepped forward and fired back. Every time he tried to create distance, she closed it down. Nick looked confused. This was not how fights were supposed to go. Opponents were supposed to respect his power and stay at range. They were supposed to be cautious and defensive. Maya was doing the opposite. She was walking into danger on purpose and daring him to stop her. The crowd sensed the shift in momentum. The noise level grew louder. Students were standing and shouting. The human section was chanting Maya's name over and over. Even species that had never cared about combat sports were caught up in the moment. Maya landed a hard right hand that snapped Nick's head to the side. For the first time in the fight, he looked hurt. She pressed forward and threw combinations to his body and head. Nick tried to tie her up, but Maya shrugged him off and kept punching. The round ended with both fighters standing in the center exchanging hooks like they were trying to prove something to each other. In the corner between rounds, Sophie wiped blood from Maya's face. Her nose was bleeding and her left eye was starting to swell, but she was smiling. I can beat him. I know I can. You are doing it. Just one more round. 5 more minutes. Give everything you have left. The final round started and both fighters looked exhausted. They had been through a war, and it showed on their faces and bodies, but neither one was willing to quit. This was about more than winning a tournament now. This was about pride and honor and proving something to themselves and the galaxy. Nick came out aggressive, trying to end the fight early. He threw power punches meant to knock Maya out, but she had taken his best shots for 2 rounds and she was still standing. Her chin was granite. Her will was iron. She slipped some punches and ate others and kept moving forward. With 3 minutes left, Maya landed a perfect left hook to Nick's body. She felt something give under her glove. Maybe a rib. Nick's face showed pain for the first time. Maya saw the weakness and attacked it. She threw 3 more hooks to the same spot. Nick tried to protect his body, but that meant dropping his hands from his head. Maya switched targets and threw an overhand right that caught Nick on the temple. His legs buckled. The crowd exploded with noise. Nick was hurt. The champion was in real trouble. Maya smelled blood and pressed her attack. She threw combinations from every angle, hooks and uppercuts and straight punches. She was throwing with bad technique now because she was too tired to do it properly. But it did not matter. Volume and pressure were overwhelming Nick's defense. Nick tried to fight back, but his punches had no power behind them anymore. He was running on empty. Maya was too, but she had one advantage. She had been here before. She had fought through exhaustion and pain in dozens of professional fights. She knew how to push past the point where her body wanted to quit. She knew how to find that last reserve of energy when there should be nothing left. With 1 minute remaining, Maya hurt Nick with a right uppercut that lifted him off his feet. He staggered backward into the ropes, barely staying upright. The referee looked ready to stop the fight, but Nick waved him off, refusing to quit. He was a champion, and champions did not go down without a fight. The last minute was pure chaos. Both fighters throwing everything they had left. Technique was gone. Strategy was forgotten. It was just 2 warriors testing each other to see who wanted it more. They traded punches in the center of the platform with the crowd screaming so loud the arena shook. The final bell rang and both fighters stopped mid-punch. They stood there swaying on their feet, too tired to move. Then slowly Nick raised his glove and touched Maya's glove in a sign of respect. That simple gesture said more than any words could. He had given everything, and so had she. Now it was up to the judges. Both fighters returned to their corners to wait for the decision. Maya could barely see out of her swollen left eye. Her face was bruised and cut. Her hands hurt so badly she could barely move her fingers. But she had made it through all 5 rounds of the final fight. She had survived. Sophie hugged her carefully, avoiding the worst injuries. You did it. Whatever the judges say, you did it. You proved humans belong here. The arena went quiet as the head judge stood to announce the decision. The fight had been close. Nick won the first round clearly. The second and third rounds were competitive, with both fighters having moments, but the judges scored fights based on effective aggression and ring control and damage inflicted. Maya had been the aggressor for most of the fight. She had controlled the pace and landed the more damaging punches, especially in the last 2 rounds. The judge spoke in the universal language that all species understood. After reviewing the scorecards from all 3 judges, the winner by unanimous decision and new tournament champion is Maya Rodriguez from Earth. The human section erupted. Students were jumping and screaming and crying with joy. Sophie grabbed Maya and lifted her off her feet, spinning around. Kyle, Brandon, and Tyler rushed onto the platform and raised Maya's arms in victory. Even students from other species were cheering and showing respect. Commander Grant made her way through the crowd and hugged Maya tightly. You did it. You actually did it. Do you understand what this means? You just changed history. Maya was too exhausted and overwhelmed to process it all. She looked around at the thousands of students cheering for her. She saw the cameras broadcasting the moment across Federation space. She saw Nick standing in his corner nodding in respect. She saw her fellow human students crying tears of happiness. This was not about boxing anymore. This was about humanity proving they deserved a place among the stars. This was about showing that physical advantages did not determine worth. This was about heart and determination and the human spirit that refused to give up no matter the odds. The award ceremony happened in a blur. Maya stood on the first place platform while officials placed a medal around her neck and handed her a trophy. The crowd chanted her name. Cameras flashed from every direction. It felt surreal, like she was watching it happen to someone else. Later that night, after the medical team had checked her injuries and cleared her to leave, Maya sat alone in her room holding the trophy. It was smaller than her championship belts from Earth, but it meant more. Those belts had been about personal glory. This trophy represented something bigger. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find all 11 other human students standing in the corridor. They came in one by one and thanked her. Some hugged her. Some shook her hand. Some just stood there with tears in their eyes, unable to speak. Danny Park was the last one in. He looked at Maya seriously. You know what you did today, right? You gave us hope. Every human at this academy faces discrimination and doubt every single day. We work twice as hard as everyone else and still get treated like we do not belong. But today you proved that humans can compete with anyone. You proved that we deserve respect. Katie Sullivan added her own thoughts. My engineering professor told me last week that humans were too primitive to contribute anything meaningful to galactic technology. After today, I went back to him and asked if he still believed that. He said no. He said any species that could produce a fighter like you deserves to be taken seriously. The students stayed for an hour, sharing their own stories about how the tournament victory had already changed things. Instructors were treating them better. Other students were showing interest in human culture. The discrimination had not disappeared, but it had lessened. One fight had not solved everything, but it was a start. After everyone left, Sophie stayed behind. She sat on the bed next to Maya and spoke quietly. What are you going to do now? You are famous again. Everyone in the galaxy knows your name. Maya looked at her worn boxing gloves sitting on the desk. She had carried them across space, trying to escape what they represented. But she understood now that she had been wrong. The gloves did not represent her past. They represented her ability to overcome challenges. They represented human resilience and ingenuity. They represented the idea that you did not have to be the biggest or the strongest to succeed. You just had to be willing to work harder than anyone else. I think I'm going to keep fighting. Not for fame or money like before, but to represent Earth and humanity. Every time I step in the ring, I am showing the galaxy what humans can do. That feels important. That feels like it matters. Sophie smiled. Good. Because Commander Grant told me there are already requests for you to compete in exhibitions on other worlds. Federation species want to see human boxing in person. Some want to learn the techniques. You could be an ambassador for Earth. Maya thought about that. An ambassador. Not just a fighter, but someone who brought humans and aliens together through shared interest in combat sports. Someone who built bridges between cultures. That was something worth doing. That was something that gave her boxing career meaning beyond personal achievement. The next morning, Maya woke up sore and stiff but happy. She went to the gymnasium where her training group met every day. Word had spread and the gym was packed. Dozens of new students,